Hi, and welcome to another episode of Sales Growth Showcase. I am here with Tom Parbs, who is the Director of Sales for Haas Alert. He is also the President of the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals, the Chicago chapter. Tom, thanks for being here. Why don't you briefly tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you impact others?
Thank you for having me on, Mark, and hello, everyone. I am Tom Parbs. I'm Director of Sales here at Haas Alert and President of the AAISP Chicago chapter, 3 times top 25 most influential inside sales leader. Former Marine, and I've been in sales for the last 2 decades. The biggest impacts that I have, I believe, with others are in a couple ways. One, I really practice a servant leadership approach. I'm here to work for others. I'm here to empower others. Secondly, I also love to practice what I preach. I'm not just a teller, I'm a doer as well of the same things that I like to preach and coach and mentor on. And thirdly, I love to give back. Giving to others and helping others without the expectation of return really fills me with gratitude and fuels me to continue being great every day.
Well, I certainly appreciate you spending a little time as a way of giving back and helping others be more successful in their sales careers. So my first question for you is, given everything that's been going on over the past year and all the changes just in the marketplace for quite some time, how are you and your teams adapting in order to continue to grow sales?
So that's a very good question. And I think a question that everybody is talking about. So for my team specifically, we really follow what Jim Keenan from Gap Selling talks about, is are we selling to people that have a problem that we can fix? And with COVID and this shift in the environment, we really try to analyze, has the ideal customer profile or the ideal buyer persona, has that shifted as well? Does my product or the people we're going after, does it still solve a problem for the people that we're used to going after? In our particular case, yes. Our problem has not gone away. It's actually gotten worse because of COVID, and it continues to get worse just by the nature of the business that we're in. And so ultimately, we are only talking and calling and focusing on very similar ideal customer profiles and ideal buyer personas. And again, the people that have the problems that we can fix. And that's how we're growing sales. We're also looking at different avenues. Are there other industries or avenues or channels of industries or verticals that have the problems that we can solve for, and are we expanding that? And we're doing that. We're doing it at a very rapid pace. We're doing it smart, but we're moving with a purpose, and that's really helping us grow our sales to record numbers. Reps are meeting and exceeding numbers month over month over month, and we're just kicking butt when it comes to our quarterly numbers and our annual numbers because of that focus on, do they have a problem that we can fix?
It's so important to always remind yourself to make sure that you're talking to the right people that have the specific problem that your product aligns to. And given that Haas Alert helps first responders in so many ways, it's wonderful that you're able to stay aligned and find points of connection with your customers.
Yes, and I think you have to do that, Mark, regardless of the environment that you're in. It's a constant, kind of level set and check. Regardless of the environment that we're in currently, I think this is just forever. You always have to keep identifying, are you on the right track, and are you talking to the right people that have the problem that you can solve, regardless of your environment?
And given some of the changes brought on by COVID or just innovations by competitors or just the marketplace in general, what are some challenges that you are running into today when it comes to selling, whether it's because of the move to virtual or some other things that are happening in the market today?
So, I think there's every business, regardless of environment, are going to have some challenges. I would think that, especially as I chat with a lot of my colleagues, other sales leaders, other organizations, I think it really comes down to kind of going back to what we were just talking about. I think there's two areas that myself as a sales leader, and I think other organizations and other sales leaders are falling into. One, again, maybe not identifying that because of an environment shift, they may not be currently talking to the right ideal customer persona because they no longer have that particular problem, or the problems that those original ICPs may have shifted. And there's certain other burning problems that perhaps you're just not able to solve for right away. Doesn't mean you can't go back and shift to later. So I think that's one of the challenges I think a lot of people are talking about. The second challenge that I think is always going to be there, especially with with everything going virtual, with LinkedIn and all social media, and it's certainly we've become a very social media driven society. The challenge in growing sales really is more of growing salespeople, because I think even anyone listening to this can go onto LinkedIn. There is just a hodgepodge of information that's out there, and so often I think you have sellers that are always looking for that silver bullet. What's that line? What's that email? What's that avenue to get in? And I think sometimes the challenge, especially with growing salespeople, because ultimately, if you can grow the person, you can grow sales as well, in my opinion, is when they have so much information overload and they're always focused on, building up that brain power, which is perfectly fine, like the IQ, as Justin Michael would call it, but they're really lacking in the I do. So it's easy to get stuck in that information overload instead of here's the consistent best practices that you just have to work hard for. So I think it's those two challenges of a shifting environment, buyers' challenges and needs and pains are shifting, and are we shifting with it? And then ultimately, are we as salespeople overloading ourselves with too much information and we're just not doing anything with it?
Always go back to the fundamentals. It is so easy to get overwhelmed and start chasing squirrels, the latest and greatest tool to help us be more successful. So I love your continued focus on the fundamentals. Building on that, we talked about some of the challenges, but certainly this move to virtual, as you said, over the past year, your business is just exploding. So what do you see, both for your team, but just sales in general, as the opportunities that have been created over the past year or so?
So I have, for the most part, for the last 20 years, been heavily involved with inside selling. So what we are going to call virtual selling, for that matter, whether it's picking up the phone, whether it's doing a Zoom call or Teams or whatever, Google Meets, for that matter. And so perhaps I'm a little bit biased on that because it's what I've known and done for a very, very long time. But what gets me excited is in the world of sales, we've heard it's a contact sport. And I get that, right? Like the more people you contact, the better you can do. But what really gets me excited about this world of now becoming virtual and inside sales is it's giving us more opportunity to have more conversations with the people that we can help. It's giving us more opportunity to help people solve their problems. And so what I really get excited about too is I have many colleagues and friends that were managing and still manage, what used to be like field teams and teams that were working remotely. They would go out and they would do face-to-face, and they should be excited for that because instead of windshield time, now you've got phone call time, now you've got meeting time. And quite frankly, most of the clients that I work with and most of the people that I've known for a very, very long time, the same way that, Mark, you and I are sitting here talking face-to-face through this video call, it's kind of like we're sitting together. And I realize we're missing that human component because we're not physically next to each other. But that's the beautiful part of technology. World leaders can solve problems with the telephone. We can sell with the telephone. We can sell with video. We can sell with text message. We can sell with email, though I say that lightly because there's you got to use it properly. But all these channels, these communication channels, are just right there at your fingertips. And I think many people have been using it successfully for a very long time. And I think they have that edge. But if you haven't been using technology virtually for a very long time, now's a great time to really capitalize on it. And even when we can get back to some semblance of normalcy where we can go meet people. I was just at a conference down in Florida pretty much all of last week. It's great to be in front of people. But you know what? You can accomplish the same, if not more, through picking up that phone, having that Zoom meeting, and really showing people that you care by how you approach it, how you focus it on them, how you want to solve their problems, and how passionate and caring you are to actually making a difference for that customer. So you can do it with virtual. It's not difficult. It may not be easy if you're not used to it, but listen, practice makes permanent, right? Practice those good behaviors, make it a habit, and you can really be successful with it, any medium you use.
Yeah, it's so important that your mindset shift to one of opportunity and abundance, just like you're saying. The fact that your customers are getting so comfortable with these virtual capabilities means that you can be connecting with, having deeper conversations without having to always be in the room with them. So I certainly appreciate you sharing that insight with us. So speaking of insights, as we wrap up, say the scenario is you meet a new sales leader that is just stepping into the position and comes to you and asks for just one nugget of advice. Where would you start? What would you tell them?
Well, so I want to address when we talk about sales leaders, okay? Because I'm a firm believer that to be a great leader, you don't have to be in a position of power, quote unquote, right? I know some SDRs, and I know some account executives. I know some customer success managers. I know some account managers. I know customer service. I know programmers that are absolute leaders, but they aren't in a position of power. So I think there's a couple things. One, from a leadership perspective, it is not about you. It is always about the other person, right? And I strongly encourage, even if it's not a style that you adapt, really looking into servant leadership, because it makes it all about empowering the other people. But really, for anybody in sales, here's the biggest thing to sell more confidently and to be more successful in this environment, regardless of what your role is. There's really three key things that you always have to remember. One, be consistent. Consistency is key. And if you think of constants and variables, you need to be the constant while the world around you is the variable. I once heard a saying that said, the best successful salespeople, they generate their success regardless of the environment, right? And it goes back to that mindset. Start to change the way you look at things. The things you look at start to change. So be successful, be consistent in the environment, regardless of what life is throwing at you. The second little piece of successful nugget I'll give you is take action. It's good to be better today than it was yesterday, than you were the day before. It's good to grow your knowledge base, and it's good to learn. Always be learning. But if you're learning and you're not taking action on that, remember the IQ versus the I do, as I mentioned, Justin Michael said, I love that piece by him. If you're not taking action, you can be the smartest person in the world, but if you're not doing anything with it, you're never going to have forward progress. So not only do you need to be consistent, but you need to take action. And then thirdly, they're all equally important, but thirdly, this is very important to remember, be a problem solver. People, your clients, don't really care about you personally. They care about how you can help them. So they want to know that you know them. They want to know that you care about them, and they want to know that you can actually help them. So be consistent, take action, pick up the phone, have that meeting, send that email, write a text message, whatever it is, but take action and be a problem solver. Now, fourthly, it could help to be organized, but I know some people that aren't 100% organized, and they're just crushing it right now because they're consistent, they're a doer, and they want to solve people's problems. So regardless of what your role is, just getting into sales, or even as a sales leader, right? You still need to be consistent, take action, and you still need to be a problem solver. From a sales leadership, a position of power per se, help take action to empower the people that you're there to work for. You work for them. They don't work for you. And if you empower them and you be there for them and you're consistent in your words and your actions, you'll grow some of the most successful sales teams, and they will be wildly successful regardless of what the environment throws at them.
That's great. I'm so appreciative that you gave me an out, that I don't actually have to be organized in order to be successful. So I appreciate you giving me the out. As long as I am consistent, I'm always taking action, and I focus on solving problems. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So the conversation went quick. It's supposed to go quick, but I appreciate everything that you have shared with us. No doubt there are people in your life, in your network, that are successful just like you, that may be open to sharing some insights on the program. Do you have one or two people that you would recommend I get in touch with and invite on the show?
Yes, absolutely. So there's actually, I could give you a list of names, but from a sales leadership standpoint, by title, from Ed Porter to Joe Venuti to Brittany Scott, those are Lauren Bailey, Scott Leese. These are everyone I'm going to mention here are some absolute superstars. But even from a sales leadership, Chris Cosrow is another one I highly recommend. But even from a leadership title perspective, there's Megan Williamson, there's Alexine Moudouar, there's Gabrielle Maxwell that I could recommend. There is John Sweeney that I could recommend. There's also, the list goes on and on and on. Bradley Martinez. And then even so, I could recommend Jared Robin, Tom Slocum. And then from an SDR perspective, I would highly recommend having a conversation with Devin Banks. Again, Mark, my Rolodex of superstars that I am privileged and honored to know, and to call colleagues or friends, really just fills my heart with gratitude. I could give you a whole heap of names from that aspect, but if you start there, there's not a single person there that wouldn't be amazing on your show.
Well, Tom, I really appreciate you opening your Rolodex to me. I have no doubt the names, they're going to not only keep me very busy for a little while, which is a good problem to have, but also introduce lots of great insights and share on this program. So thank you for suggesting them to me. As we wrap up, thank you so much for taking the time to be here on the Sales Growth Showcase. I very much appreciate everything that you shared, and I look forward to having another conversation. You and I are going to talk again in a couple of weeks, and maybe do this in a longer form for folks to enjoy even more insights and knowledge based on your career and things that you have experienced. I can't wait to share it with them.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on, Mark. Love these conversations. And again, for anyone listening, if there's anything I could ever do to be helpful in any way, just let me know what I can do to help out, right? Giving back makes me feel great. And it makes us get better together in this community. And at the end of the day, we're all in this together as a human race, as a society, as colleagues in the sales business. We are all in this together, and together we'll move forward and get better together. So thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you, Mark, for having me on.
Thanks, Tom. And folks, you heard a long list of names. I'll be hard at work getting in touch with them. So make sure you watch out for future episodes of the Sales Growth Showcase coming your way. Take care.